All right, we are live. Georgia Clemson 34-3. Georgia had a very dominant second half. A little slow in the first half. I think they were working out some kinks there. Um, National media, the media in general, is more focused on the Georgia story or the Clemson storyline, not Georgia, and what it means for Clemson. I took a lot more from what Georgia looked like than Clemson did. Um, I'm sure you did too. Give us your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, it was a good win. It was a slow, absolute destruction. It took a little while, but I think in the first half, um, I think Branson Robinson was a little timid coming back, which is completely understandable after being not playing any football last year. I think he was a little timid hitting the holes. And to be honest, we were running up the middle, and there wasn't a whole lot of holes, wasn't a lot of holes there. Clemson's front seven, as we talked about, they're for real. They may be, you and I talked about it, it may be one of the better defenses that Georgia's going to see. But as far as Clemson, I don't study Clemson and don't want to become a Clemson expert, but defense is good, but that offense is nowhere near what Clemson used to be. And until they get a dominant offensive line, which they don't have, and they get a better quarterback, they're not going to put up very many points. So what they'll do in the ACC, I don't have any idea. But they're not anywhere in the league close to where Georgia's at, and that became apparent in the second half. And we can talk about what I think changed in the second half. But anyway, dominant win, and I think Clemson's a legitimate top 15 team. We'll see.
Well, the problem, and I heard people that were at the game say that there were running holes for Georgia, and that, not to criticize, but Branson Robinson did look a bit slow, and I think you're going to get that with a guy who just got off ACL surgery, had reconstructive knee surgery, so and that's going into the game with. Was Trevor Etienne going to play? Was he not going to play? Was he suspended? Who's suspended? What's suspension? What is a suspension? The game that Kirby Smart was playing. That was my biggest concern going in. I knew Georgia was going to win, irregardless of the fact if Etienne played or not. It was just, you're depending on a guy that is going to be probably a step slow. It's hard to come back from that, and especially game one.
Right.
To me, the biggest takeaway was the Georgia offense. When it is going, it is going to be a machine. There's just a lot of ways to attack a team. And we saw it especially from the first half to the second half. Second half, it was 4 wide, 5 wide, every single time, space them out and go sideline to sideline.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a good adjustment by Bobo. And I think, to me, I think Kirby and Bobo both knew to be conservative in the first half. I really do. To make sure that, they didn't put themselves in a bad situation, because they knew Clemson's offense wasn't going to do a whole lot of damage.
And they were right. If they that was their thinking, they were right.
And I think that, and you could see that in the first half, they weren't going to put the defense in a bad spot to let Clemson get a little bit of momentum. And really, and I guess we'll talk about the defense now, but the defense played really well. I think our concerns with the front seven, it's still a little concerning with the defensive line depth. I think we both touched on that. But the defensive line played pretty well.
Yeah.
Only gave up 46 yards. And Clemson really, and maybe it's an in-game thing for us, but I think you said it whenever we were watching, Clemson should run the ball more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
Well, Yeah, I thought in the first half, especially, I thought Clemson, they just needed to be a little bit more patient. To me, they were getting that Muffa as a good back, and they were getting enough runs. And to me, to keep Georgia's offense, especially in the second half, to keep Georgia's offense off the field, they should have stayed a little more patient with the run. I think they would have made at least controlled the clock a little bit more and shrunk the game. But where we on our offense, where we started, you said it, but when we started running on the perimeter, we found some holes, and I think that loosened Clemson up. And their front seven is really good. They just don't have the depth that Georgia had, and I think we were rotating a lot of different combinations on the offensive line. We got a lot of guys playing, and then we started using our speed on the outside. Arian Smith became a much more of a versatile in how Bobo was using him than he's ever been. I think had more touches and more catches yesterday than he did all season last year. So, but yeah, our defense is exceptionally fast. I think I am concerned about our defensive line, but they played our defense played really, really good, and they are going to be they're exceptionally fast. It may be one of the fastest defenses Georgia's had.
So that's why, and we'll see it. I think we're going to see it more against Kentucky in 2 weeks from now. If we can sustain a running attack, because so far that's been the biggest concern with the defense. But I think because their speed is so great, they don't have to worry about. Also, if there's a baby crying in the background, that's my daughter. So sorry. But anyway, if the speed of the defense is so good, I think they're going to be able to close gaps and close holes. And this defense is going to be really fun to watch this year, I think. And think about the amount of linebackers that you got, inside linebackers that you have that can run sideline to sideline. You got 4 that can run, and Justin Williams was playing. There's a lot, and Troy Bowles. There's a lot of guys that can cover sideline to sideline. I think Georgia's defense is going to be just fine. I think the downfall of Georgia's defense has been greatly overstated.
Well, we will. I think everybody knows, but Clemson has scored 6 points, 2 field goals in 2 games against Georgia. So, yeah, our defense is for real, and we knew that Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann and the brain trust Georgia was going to have they're always going to field a really good defense. Didn't know how good, but I think they're going to create some havoc, and I think they're going to be a problem. Like you said, those inside and outside linebackers are for real. And I thought what they did, I said that star position, one of the things I was going to be looking at. Who knew? I thought it was going to be Aguero, but they actually moved Malachi there for a lot of times. KJ Bolden played it some, but KJ took Malachi's spot, and Dirty Dan switched over. It was to do that on the fly. That was a huge, and obviously Malachi Starks. My gosh, what a freak! Right. He is one heck of a football player. But yeah, Georgia's defense is going to be just fine.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and it's not really being talked about, but the defensive backs, the cornerbacks, they played an outstanding game. Julian Humphrey, Dalen Everett, who is well known. If you go back and look at any of the 2023 videos that we did, I wasn't a big fan of him. He played it pretty well. Those 2 catches that he gave up, one was a perfect pass, and he was right on the guy. The other one was just a busted play, and there was not a whole lot he could do on that tight end with the one-handed catch on third down. There wasn't a whole lot he could do on that play. So I think he played really well. I think Julian Humphrey played obviously really well. I don't remember a guy catching a ball on him.
May have been one of them. But anyway, but yeah,
not much, right? And also the safeties, the stars, they played really well. And KJ Bolden, we know Malachi Starks, so we know that he's one of the best, probably the best defensive players in the country. KJ Bolden is going to be a dude for a long
Yes.
time for Georgia. So I came away, and the recruiting drama, and then watching them play. I thought he was kind of a prima donna, kind of like a cornerback type, not bring any thud.
He'll
Uh,
hit you.
he'll hit you, and so I got a lot of respect for him. He can pop guys. So to me, more so, everyone's talking about the Georgia offense. I came away more impressed with the Georgia defense, just the speed at which they played with, and it had nothing to do with Clemson's terrible play calling and Clemson's Klubnik is just, that's just terrible.
Yeah, they don't push the ball down the field at all, and Klubnik doesn't threaten you. But yeah, no, I agree. KJ Bolden is going to be a player. Already is a player, and you said it. But Jalen Walker and Michael Williams, they are going to create some problems for people. I guarantee you. Jalen Walker, I thought had a impactful is the word that I would use.
Yeah. Jalen Walker played really well, and what I find really interesting is Michael. I know he got hurt. What was that? The third quarter, third quarter, because they got that field goal. Clemson was really focusing on him, double teaming him, chipping him, making sure that he wasn't a factor. And then they just kind of completely forgot Jalen Walker. And to me, I know Michael, he has the size and the speed, and he's probably going to be a first-round pick. To me, Jalen Walker's the better outside linebacker. So is pick your poison. Is either one's really good and probably going to be a first-round pick. You got to pick your poison and come, later into the season, Kentucky, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas, that's going to be hard. That's going to be really hard. And they're good in the back on defense. I don't know how offenses are really going to attack this Georgia.
I think they're going to have to run straight at them, run up the middle. I think teams can make some hay. I think doing that, but
good luck.
I know that's what I'm. Good luck. You're going to have to sustain it. You're going to have to be patient. You're going to have to execute all the way down the field, and not a whole lot of offenses can do that. Not a whole lot.
And then on the other flip side, you got to limit Georgia's offense.
Yes.
And there's not many teams out there that can do both. And that's what makes Georgia so deadly. The rest of the season and in the playoffs. Here's the other thing that I wanted to talk about, because I watched a lot of recaps. I stayed up way too late watching people recap Georgia and Clemson. Andy Staples has on Ari Weisherman, who I'm not a big fan of. He's a Georgia hater. He says he's not, but he definitely is. And I want everyone to keep their ears up, because this will be kind of what they're going to knock Georgia for out there in the media, and it's going to get annoying. They're going to say, well, Georgia's offense is not explosive. They don't have the explosiveness, blah, 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 blah. And then they go, well, they don't have – who do they have? Is it Ladd McConkey or Brock Bowers? They're gone. They did that before, kind of giving a reason why Clemson has a shot in the game. I don't – who was Georgia's go-to guy in 2021, 2022? It was Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey, A.D. Mitchell, Rosemary Jack Saint, who I'm forgetting a bunch of guys. Karis Jackson.
Yeah, Burton, whenever we had him.
Yeah, exactly. So Darnell, Washington, there were multiple weapons that they used. It's the same thing here. Georgia has, look, Dylan Bell goes down, and I thought, and I think we both thought, some bad knee injury.
Yeah, I was worried.
Thank God it's only cramps. Dylan Bell goes out. You got Arian Smith, who's starting to come on, finally coming on. You got Dominic Lovett. You got Colby Young. You got my boy, Landon Humphreys. And then you got Delp, Lawson Lucky. There's a ton of depth and a ton of weapons that Carson Beck can distribute to. And that's Carson Beck's game. He's going to distribute the ball, and not one player is going to have a huge stat line. And that's what the media they scoreboard watch. They just look at the stat box.
Well, I think to your point, I think there were 7 or 8 different receivers that caught the ball yesterday from Beck. And when they say they're not explosive, how many explosive plays does Georgia have just in the second half?
That to Landon Humphreys was at least over 20 yards, right?
Yeah.
Cash Jones, those were a couple. Arian Smith's run, Dylan Bell's catch and run, Dominic Lovett.
Did you mention Lawson Lucky's?
Oh yeah, Lawson Lucky's. There were some 20 yards or more is explosive.
Nate Frazier's run.
Nate Frazier's run, which it took us 15 minutes to get to Nate Frazier, who I think is the story of the offensive side of the ball. Man, what a difference. As soon as they put him in, Georgia was all of a sudden able to run the ball. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
He's going to be a ball player.
Yes, he is. Shifty, can change directions. He did that jump cut and jump back on a run. Yeah, he's going to be special. He's a good player. So Georgia, I agree with you. Georgia can beat you offensively with a lot of different weapons. They don't have to have the 1 or 2 marquee players that the media loves to have, so they have storylines. But they're going to be able to be explosive. I do. We're going to have to run the ball better. You're going to have to. There was way too many. The other thing, and it's stuff they can clean up. But I think we had 7 penalties, and some of them were that Yurcik penalty. Stuff like that. The pass interference call on Arian Smith that negated a 37-yard play to Dylan Bell. So they can clean some of that stuff up. But you got to be conscious of the penalties. It's the first game of the year. But Nate Frazier is going to be a ball player. It's going to be interesting to see what Etienne does once he gets in there. I would anticipate it's a 1-game suspension. Of course, I have no idea knowing that. But Chip Towers asked Kirby, and he was Kirby chastised him.
Yeah,
told him thank you for the question.
Yeah, he's never going to answer that question. So, and I think the offense, I think it's going to not completely change. I need to roll back the hyperbole there. It's going to look a lot different, and I think a lot better with ETN coming in. And then once we get Roger Grobson, who, probably we're not going to see till Kentucky, maybe Alabama. It's going to be a really different. And think about the stable of horses that Georgia can roll once they get Roger Grobson back. Think about all the people that they can roll in,
and the skill set difference within the running back room as well. That's going to be hard for teams to deal with.
It's going to be really hard. So Carson Beck, I know some people listen to some. They criticizing, I guess, his. I don't even know what there were people. Some people were criticizing him, which I didn't really understand. I guess they're just nitpicking because he's a Heisman favorite. I thought he looked great to me. I mean, he was 70%, 69.6 percentage on the day. He threw for over 200 yards and didn't do anything really stupid. Put the ball in any bad places. There should have been a couple of touchdowns that weren't because of defensive pass interference, and then just a drop ball. Not a drop ball, but a ball too high on an RPO. I thought he played exceptional, not exceptional, but played well. I don't have any problem with it.
I have zero problem with it. Kept the ball out of harm's way. Used his legs, which is a couple times yesterday that we have not seen, and I think that's going to be important for him to be able to show that and threaten that to keep defenses honest. But yeah, 22 for 32 or something like that for
33.
Okay, so I don't. Here's what I would say. I'm not worried, and I don't think Georgia and Kirby and Bobo. They're not going to do one of these things like USC does and try to highlight and put it all in the quarterback. He's got too many weapons, man. Doesn't have to do that. And you're not going to win the Heisman in the first 3 or 4 games of the year, but you could sure shit lose it, right? And
Sure.
He didn't do any of that. He didn't do the latter. So to me, he's the most talented arm wise, and probably just from understanding the game, he's the most talented quarterback that Georgia's had since Matthew Stafford for sure.
Yeah, he is talent. I totally agree. I mean, there's Aaron Murray, there's Stetson, from somewhere in there about just processing.
Yeah.
And that he has all of their abilities, which is kind of nice. It's fun to watch. It's nice. It's enjoyable to see Georgia's offense work. I guess if we want to be critical, what's your biggest criticism of Georgia coming out of Saturday?
I think we're going to have to be able to run the ball more consistently inside the tackles, and I think that will get better as we move on in the season. That first half got me a little concerned. That would be one, and then the other one is just the penalties. Georgia under Kirby Smart's always been a really disciplined team. I think having 7 penalties was way too many. So there's certainly some coachable or teachable things that Kirby and the staff can use out of this, but that would running in between the tackles and the penalties would be my criticisms.
Well, for me, and I don't know, we'll see, but it has been my biggest criticism of Mike Bobo since he's taken over. The conservative nature of the play calling has got to change. And I know it's the first game, and I know Kirby knew that we were going to beat Clemson, and that he probably didn't want to show a whole lot. Didn't want to show his hand when they got to play Alabama, and just 3 weeks at the end of the month. But I would like to be a little aggressive in the play calling, attack the field, push the ball down the field. It wasn't there. It wasn't there really till that drive where Georgia put a field goal together, and that was what, midway in the second quarter?
Yeah. 6 minutes left, I think, on the clock.
Yeah. And look, that was a problem. And then to your point, Georgia could have probably scored more because that one drive where Woodring, kicked that 55-yarder. They stalled out because of penalties.
Yeah, because of penalties.
So, but again, the play calling was conservative because after that pass interference call, wasn't it pass interference that back?
I believe that was it that took it. Yes.
The next play was a throw behind the line of scrimmage to Branson Robinson. That's a really conservative play. Just be aggressive. It's okay. We're now at the 40-yard line. We got a kicker that can kick it. Be a little aggressive. Okay.
The other thing too that we talked about that I liked, but I don't. If we're going to run tempo, which we did, is if you're going to run tempo, one of the reasons you're doing it is because the defense can't substitute, and you're catching them on their heels. If you're going to do that, then be aggressive with it. You know what I mean? Like we would run tempo, no huddle, and then make a big play, and then immediately follow it up with something that was extremely conservative. It's like, dude, now you're giving the defense time. To me, you're giving defense time to catch their breath and kind of get their feet up under them. If you're going to run tempo, be aggressive with running tempo.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's something to watch. We obviously won't see it next week. I mean, you might as well forget it. We're going to see the most vanilla offense ever against Tennessee Tech. I wouldn't be shocked if you start seeing like Cash Jones get most of the carries and most of the touches outside of Gunnar Stockton. So I wouldn't be shocked there. All right. So Clemson, here's my thing. I guess we'll wrap it up here in a little bit, but people taking away Dabo needs to adapt and do the transfer portal thing. I think it's a little early. Everyone kind of knew that Clemson wasn't going to win this game. It just matchup wise, they weren't going to match up. Clemson's got probably the best defense Georgia's going to face all year. Maybe Alabama is the next best, but no front seven is going to even look like that Georgia's going to face. Not even Ole Miss. So who purged in the transfer portal. So I don't buy into that. I think it's way too early to start criticizing Dabo, and he's getting criticized right now for the transfer portal stuff. Let's see how the season plays out because they can still win the ACC. But here's my main takeaway. You saw it against who did the ACC play? Florida State hasn't looked good. NC State didn't.
Virginia Tech got beat by Vanderbilt, right?
Everyone was their dark horse to win the ACC. Georgia Tech is about the only team outside of Miami, and we'll talk about Florida in a minute. Clemson can still win the ACC and win it pretty comfortably. The ACC and the Big 12, they're not – it just shows you the disparity between the two leagues, the Big 10 and the SEC. And I think we're about to see a big gap between the Big 10 and the SEC later on as the season progresses.
Well, that's, again, we're already complaining we hadn't even got there. But if you're taking the conference champions and automatically seeding them, that to me is not right. I mean, and again, we'll see how this win holds up and what happens with Clemson seasons. But if they end up winning the ACC, and because they won the ACC, they get into the playoffs, and there's that big of a disparity between the ACC champion and Georgia, 31-point difference I get it, regular season, but you can't tell me that Clemson is going to get 31 points better throughout the season. So my point is, this is a way off topic, but if you're going to pick it needs to be the 12 best teams. It shouldn't be the conference champions because all conferences are not equal.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But here's the other thing that I took away from it. That's supposed to be the 14th best team in the country. So they're right outside of missing the playoff. And there's a 31-point difference between the number 1 team and the 14th team.
Yeah.
What are we doing? I mean, seriously, what are we doing? That's a colossal waste of time. We always talk about player safety. You're going to get more guys hurt. It's stupid. It's just stupid on so many levels. I'm anti-expansion. It should have been 8 teams at the most. At the most, it should have never been 12. But anyway, speaking of Miami, Florida's got a new ball coach someday, soon. Billy Napier is a dead man walking. And I pointed it out to you. Florida, it was whenever Mertz threw an interception, and they were driving the ball down the field, and it was kind of to keep them into the ball game. And he threw an interception, and number 70, I still remember his number, had an angle on the defender who got the interception, and he started jogging, just jogging. Florida's got massive problems. I hate it for them, really. But it's embarrassing, and there's going to be massive chaos. So I don't even know. After the Tennessee game for Florida, I don't know if Billy Napier is going to coach in Jacksonville against Georgia. I have no idea.
You put a gun to my head right now, I would tell you that Billy Napier does not make it to the Jacksonville game. That was gonna. I mean, look at their schedule, dude. I think that was almost a must win. For Florida. And they just don't. There's a culture issue. I don't know. I don't know what the problem is. Don't really care. Like, again, that's a Florida problem. But I agree with you. There's major problems down there, and they are. I'm sure Florida fans are apoplectic. I mean, I don't blame them really. Florida's a proud program, but I don't know what the hell's going on down there.
Yeah, I don't know either, and it's I don't even know. It's fun to watch as an outsider, just watching it burn to the ground. It's really enjoyable, and it's embarrassing for the SEC though, because I mean, the ACC is kind of a joke.
Yeah,
and to get beat that bad at home, that's embarrassing. So I mean, fucking Vanderbilt, they were trying to give away the game to Virginia Tech, and they still won. So, I mean.
And Virginia Tech, a lot of people, I don't know about a lot, but some people picked them to be the dark horse, right, in the ACC.
Yeah,
That tells you how weak that conference is.
yeah. A lot of them, a lot of people had them in the playoff, like in the third spot.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So, by the way, Texas, they all marked Vanderbilt as a win. Maybe not. Look out.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. Well, I think that's about it. Our biggest takeaways. We'll talk about the Georgia Tennessee Tech game. It'll probably be a very abbreviated one. So hang in there, and then we got Kentucky next week. So
The week after that, yeah.
yeah. So we got some bigger games. Then we got to bye. As soon as we start the season, we got a week off. How nice.
We need it.
Yeah. Branson Robinson not going to be out for long.
Roderick Robinson, you mean?
No, Warren Brinson.
Okay.
I really screwed that up. Warren Brinson not going to be out long. Mike Hale's probably not going to be out long. I'm pretty sure we're going to get Jared Hall back.
Dylan Bell just cramps. I think Mikael Williams said no X-rays. No tears, breaks. But so anyway, hopefully we came through it relatively healthy.
Yeah, and Stackhouse, he's fine. So we came out relatively healthy. I think probably the guys who are banged up probably won't play next week or have very limited snaps. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that, especially next time we're on here, just see who's in, who's out, and what to look forward to next week. All right. Remember to like and subscribe, comment, tell us that we're stupid. Subscribe to Terminus Sports _ATL on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We did big numbers on our last TikTok. TikTok loves us. So I guess we're good for the algorithm, not for YouTube. Also subscribe. And then our presenting sponsor, I need to get a logo over here so I can put it there. Unishippers Atlanta, give us a pitch.
We work with small to medium-sized businesses, helping them reduce their shipping cost, anything from FedEx and UPS all the way up to less than truckload and full truckload. So feel free to reach out and ask for Marcus Gore at Unishippers Atlanta.
All right. Well, that'll be it for now. Good recap. Good game by Georgia. It was a domination from, I don't know, well, really start to finish. There was never a doubt, really.
No, I agree with that.
So hopefully it continues, and we'll see you on the other side.
See ya.